I'm actually excited to do this one, by the way.
Are you?
I am. I don't know about you.
I don't. I feel like I have less to say about this than everything else before. So I'm glad you're excited because
Okay.
I don't know how I feel about this movie. But let's just
We'll
go
find
for
out
it.
right now. Welcome to Bad Puns and Machine Guns, the podcast where we watch and discuss every Arnold Schwarzenegger movie one at a time, and maybe the occasional surprise as well. I'm Mike Olson.
And I'm Kevin Keene. Today we're discussing Stay Hungry, released by United Artists on April 23rd, 1976, starring Jeff Bridges, Sally Field, R.G. Armstrong, Robert Englund, Helena Kaliniotis, I believe, apologies if I'm wrong, Roger E. Mosley, Scatman Crothers, and introducing Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is a crazy thing to see in the credits. Written by Charles Gaines and Bob Rafelson, based on the novel by Charles Gaines, directed by Bob Rafelson.
So introducing, he didn't get top billing on this one.
He was third billing. I saved him for last because I was so amazed by that. I said, I got to put this... so the third billing is still pretty high for his first movie.
Yes.
But the introducing it makes sense because he did do a movie before this. He was in Hercules in New York, which is a very, very B movie that only is known now because he became famous after the fact, but at the time, I'm sure no one even knew that movie existed.
Yes.
And even still, he was not credited as Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was credited as Arnold Strong.
I believe it was Arnold Strong, yes.
So, yeah, I shouldn't have been surprised to see that credit, but it still was like, oh, yeah, wow. Introducing Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah,
it's just so crazy.
It was pretty surreal. So this one was my pick and is in the category that we've deemed weird early stuff, which Hercules in New York also was a candidate.
That qualifies both as weird and as early stuff.
Yes.
The earliest of stuff and the weirdest of stuff.
Yes. So I had never seen this, had to do a little searching to find how we'd be able to watch it. Bought a used copy on DVD. Thank you, Amazon. Rather than rent it, and certainly is one I had never seen before, and I know is one you've never seen before.
Yeah, I'd never seen it either. I had never even heard of it until we started digging into his filmography for this podcast.
Nope, and I was pretty excited when I saw it on the list, mainly because what a combination between the dude and many other roles, but Jeff Bridges, Sally Field, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then as I watched it, I didn't get past kind of that until I watched it. There's actually a lot of other people that show up in here. You got Ed Begley Jr. It's not a huge role, but he shows up. Scatman Crow. I mean, you've got a lot of famous 70s and 80s actors in this that just kind of show up, which was pretty interesting too.
And Robert Englund, which
yes.
He wasn't in the opening credits, and I didn't really do much research before I watched it the first time. I wanted to go in as cold as possible, and as soon as he showed up, I was like, "Oh my god, it's Freddy Krueger!" I knew enough about what he looked like to go. I knew it was Robert Englund, but that caught me by surprise.
A grease man, Freddy Krueger,
right? Yeah, the grease man. But this is an interesting movie. I think the first time I watched it, I kind of hated it.
Really, that's interesting.
The second time through, I liked it a lot more, and I think 70s cinema. I still have a hard time with sometimes. I mean, I think you're just knowing you. I know that you tend to gravitate towards that kind of stuff.
There's a lot from the 70s that I do enjoy.
And so do I. But I think the lesser, I think most 70s movies that I love is in spite of the fact that they feel like they're from the 70s. I think the kind of the lesser stuff, just kind of the meandering and the kind of like post 60s, like, hey man, we don't need a plot. Let's just a bunch of stuff that happens. Hey, that stuff always drives me crazy. And this movie, it's not the worst offender, but it has some of that.
It has a lot. I think I was just excited. I love the fact that the movie exists, that there's a movie, that the concept is Jeff Bridges, and it opens up to me. It was like the opening to a Civil War movie, that he's riding on a horse. The score feels like, the South has been burned to the ground. It takes place in the South, but it feels like a Civil War movie. And as I'm watching this, I'm like, what is going on? He's got a horse and a rifle, and there's this voiceover. I'm like, how is this going to involve bodybuilding, him buying a business, and Sally Field? I mean, the first 30 seconds, I didn't know what was going on, and then I reminded myself, I'm like, yeah, this is the 70s. I'm probably going to love this movie because it's going to be a bunch of random stuff that doesn't make any sense.
I have this opening queued up because I want to play it, so let's just play it now, because I'll go a step further, because you're saying it feels like a Civil War movie. What it feels like is it feels exactly like Ken Burns' Civil War, like the narration. Let's just play this.
It has a beat. I didn't put that together. I've seen that actually recently. Ken Burns, Civil War. It's
great.
It is a great production. But man, I didn't even put that together. But it does. It has that beat or that feel. Let's
just play this and imagine like just images like drifting past the screen and just some dearest Margaret. Like here's
absolutely. I'm going to envision somebody saying William Tecumseh Sherman at some point.
here's the opening of this movie.
It has been 5 months since your father.
I mean, just imagine. It's just
and my beloved sister.
The music and the voiceover is literally just a Ken Burns documentary.
Surely there is no time limit.
It is like some letter being read in Ken Burns' Civil War.
Yeah,
absolutely.
but and all we're seeing is Jeff Bridges ride a horse around the woods, and this is a letter from his uncle.
Business.
And it's so slow and languid.
Perhaps this is the time. To seek the comfort.
This is the time.
Of your
you can spit it out. I mean, look, I'm the one to talk. I stammer and stutter, but this guy takes forever to say something. That's coming from me.
Now that your parents
get to the point.
Dead.
Anyway, so all I could think as soon as I heard that opening narration was just like,
you summed it up even better. So we get the introduction of Uncle Albert, which he shows up later in the movie. But the first thing I thought of was and we get it that I think he's over in Europe. But the first time I watched him, I'm like, Uncle Albert, this isn't the actual Civil War. Just go down there.
Right.
You
can fly in for a weekend.
You can fly in for a weekend. And I'm going to assume probably anybody who's listening to this has not seen this movie because this is not one that you can just find, or if you're a Schwarzenegger fan, that you've probably seen.
Yeah, is this even available? I think when I first did the research to see what's available, I think it is on Amazon.
Amazon streaming, you can rent it or you can buy. Yes, it is.
It's like a $5 rental. Yeah, so it is available.
It was cheaper to buy the DVD, and the DVD had the commentary, which I thought I might be useful and get around to. But so Uncle Albert is effectively worried about Jeff Bridges' character. And I'm saying Jeff Bridges, that shit. So it's Craig Blake is the Bridges character, and the Blake family. You get a little bit of what is a traditional Southern plantation house that Craig Blake appears. He's living in. It was his parents' house, and he's just kind of wandering aimlessly. I can't tell how old he's supposed to be, but somewhere in his 20s is what I think, or at least I took from it.
Yeah, it's probably late 20s or something like that. I don't know how old Jeff Bridges was at the time, but that's what I would guess.
So and some of the reason why maybe I don't know if it sounds like I like this more than you, but so you go from this opening, and the second time that I watched it, I knew it was coming next, but you want to talk about just completely a different movie in the next scene.
This movie has such crazy tonal shifts. I had the exact same note, and I want to play it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to sound like we're going to play the whole movie here, but it's just astonishing how different the opening scenes, the first 3 minutes, how different they could be.
Well, it's going to sound like we're playing two different movies.
Yes.
Because it's such a jarring transition. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to play a lot of clips, but I wanted to play these two opening clips because you're absolutely right. It's so crazy how different these are. Okay, so Jeff Bridges has finished wandering through the woods.
Let me hear from you.
He's got a rifle thrown over his shoulder, just walking in.
Just wandering around with a rifle.
Uncle Albert.
Then cut to these guys.
I bet you 50 I can beat you to the meeting.
Double it for 100. We don't want to keep that Blake boy waiting.
So there's a bunch of guys on CB radios.
I'm in. We jumping Reds, Jabbo. I see a piece of pelt. I'd like to jump over here. If I'm lying, I'm dying.
It's just
and they're racing to
Birmingham.
They're racing to an office building.
Yeah. Still jump like once. You're gonna miss me.
This literally could not be more 70s. If you were just design a spoof of the 70s, it would be this.
Yes, and it's almost like, hey, we need kind of a car chase in this movie. We feel like we could have one, and this is the time to do it.
But at no point do any of these guys see each other. It's just like, oh, I got here first.
Yeah.
That's just all that guy's just like, yeah, I got here first. Yeehaw. But just, man, what a weird... Like, those two scenes exist in the same movie, and we're only 3 minutes in.
And they're back to back, right. I mean, it was astonishing. I think that's the reason why my second time through I liked it even more, knowing that this complete insanity of juxtaposition of scenes was coming up that just makes no sense.
But I think that's why I don't really know how I feel about it, or I don't know what to think, because And it is that thing I was talking about where it's just a bunch of scenes. It's just a jumble of things that happen that a lot of times don't feel like they are connected in a lot of ways. I mean, they are connected. You can go through the plot and understand why each scene is. I mean, that scene is just setting up these guys are just a bunch of a-holes, and we're going to learn. I wrote down my notes. Every time you see them, I call them the Legion of Doom. They're just sitting around plotting and just like, yes, we will destroy this gym, and they're just sitting there cackling. And but to set up the plot, because we're kind of talking around it, but it's a bunch of real estate investors who seem that the implication is they're tied into the mob, correct?
Well, I don't know if... It seemed like, yes, in some ways they're dirty. I think I was a little bit... I jumped to that same conclusion, but mainly it's because Jabo, or Jabo, who you just heard on the CB radio there,
yes,
immediately I thought, it's the guy from Godfather 2. Chi-Chi went into the witness protection program, and apparently he developed a really bad accent and moved down to Birmingham and is doing real estate scams.
Oh, yeah, that accent. That guy's accent is really bad.
Really bad, but I mean, that is the first thing that went through my mind. I'm like, oh, Michael Corleone is going to be looking for him.
Well, see, who is he? Because that actor's name is Joe Spinell, and the place I know him from and why I got excited to see him is because he's Mr. Gazzo in the first two Rocky movies.
Oh, and you are a huge Rocky fan.
I'm a huge Rocky fan. You're a huge Godfather fan. I'm not that familiar with The Godfather, and I saw in his Wikipedia that he was in the Godfather movies, and I kind of went like, I don't remember him. So I figured you would know who it was.
And the reason why I even connected it more is he's actually the one when in front of the Senate hearing, he's the one who testifies and has maybe one of the best lines in Godfather 2. Senator, when somebody tells me to push a button on a guy, I push a button on a guy. Whether or not you remember it. So immediately I'm thinking, look, he went into the witness protection program, and apparently they put him down in Birmingham and told him they have a really bad accent.
If it wasn't for the fact that the Godfather movies are set in the past, it would actually make a lot of sense.
Yes, I understand the time difference doesn't necessarily tie together completely, but just give it to me. That's what I'm taking, is that this guy was in the mob and he's in the witness protection program now.
And that accent would actually make sense because he was trying to pass as, I'm a Southerner, I was born here.
Yes.
Listen to my accent.
He's a New York mobster. It's really, really trying to do a Southern Birmingham accent.
I love Joe Spinell in the Rocky movies, and the fact that he's in The Godfather. I can't say I'm that familiar with him, but this movie, he shouldn't have even tried to do that accent.
It was bad.
Just be a New York guy.
Yes. So we get to this meeting after they've all raced there, talking on CB radios, which I'm assuming was to also show how wealthy they were if they could have CB radios in their cars is my guess.
Yeah, I wasn't even really sure if they just if that's in the 70s. Is that something you could get as an addition as an
option?
Yeah,
can I upgrade my huge gas guzzling car that is not going to make a lot of sense with the oil embargo at the end of the decade? Can I get a CB radio in there, please?
Yeah, were they all driving Cadillacs? I think so.
They were either Cadillacs or Lincolns. They were big behemoths of cars.
Yeah, for sure.
So you then get the stage set where everybody in the room has acquired or is in the process of acquiring a key piece of property to do an assemblage. I'm assuming the reason why they each have to do it individually is that so the other property owners don't figure out what's going on and the price effectively rises beyond what they're willing to pay is my guess. You don't get that in the dialogue, but I assume that's the reason why.
I'm glad you're here because I was going to ask you, since you would know about this sort of thing much more than me. But I thought maybe it was just it seemed to me like there was something shady going on where they, for whatever reason, they didn't want anyone to know that these were all going to be bought up by a single buyer.
Yeah,
they had to make it look like they were all separate buyers. But I think that's why it was just to not drive the prices up.
That's the only thing I think it probably was, is not drive the price up, not necessarily organized crime related. That's my guess, is to not drive the prices up, because they had said later on after the meeting inside the building when they're up on the parking deck, Blake and his buddy are talking and saying how his buddy says, well, these guys made a boatload on their last deal. So my guess is that they're probably known in the community, and that if those other guys were acquiring all of the parcels, the last holdout would figure it out and ask way too much for their property.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
That's my guess. So the only other thing I want to highlight, though, within the meeting is the close-up of Walter Jr. and the laugh that guy has.
That's exactly when I wrote down Legion of Doom.
Oh,
that guy's laugh.
That guy's laugh, and of course, and the fact that
yeah.
yes. that was another one that made me smile and feel like I wasn't wasting my time watching it a second time. But at the same time, you're not going to run across too many characters and things that are named Walter Jr. And I could not get Breaking Bad out of my head when that guy's laugh.
I had that same thought. I really didn't. I didn't write anything down. And I was like, "There's a joke here, but I don't know. Maybe it's not something that should be explored."
Yes, I didn't know either, but I just want to point out, since people may not take the time to watch this, Walter Jr. Has quite the devious laugh, and it's not the Walter Jr. from Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I also the whole thing of the fact that Jeff Bridges' character Blake, right?
Craig Blake, yes.
Blake. How he got mixed up with these guys, and then like they're kind of there's the part where they're like, okay, you're gonna buy that gym, give me a high 10, and he like gives him a high 10.
Yes,
he gives him a double high five.
She's
like, I hate all these guys, including Jeff Bridges. He should have refused to give a high 10.
Like, on principle, he should have said, "No, this is stupid. I'm not doing it."
If you're older than 8 years old, you should be like, "Nah, that's okay."
You're taking the grease monkey from Seinfeld. You're taking that the high five is a little grease monkey, and so then the high 10 is double offensive.
It's like quadruple offensive somehow. It's like it's exponential is really what it is. Every 5 you add makes it much worse. Adults high-fiving, it depends on circumstances, but there are some circumstances, and maybe if you're in evil, if you're in
Legion of Doom?
Yeah, if you're involved in an evil scheme, sure, high five, yeah, we're both evil together. High 10, no, never.
It's not acceptable.
There's no circumstance where that's allowed.
So, effectively, the plot gets explained outside that they've got to, the two of them have to finish and close their deals, the most important one being this gym that Craig Blake, Jeff Bridges' character, needs to acquire, and in his in some ways, maybe this is a premonition of him being cast as the dude, because he does just kind of have this laissez-faire. He's not worried about anything in the world. So maybe this was I know I'm making a big leap here, but maybe this was the basis for the dude. In some ways,
I think a lot of Jeff Bridges' characters are like that, because I think Jeff Bridges maybe is a little like that.
Like that, yeah.
Because it's funny because I recently watched the '70s King Kong. I may have even mentioned that on one of the podcasts.
So. Yeah.
But he's very like, hey man, we gotta save this monkey or whatever. He's just kind of like, and
he's a little bit like the dude.
Yeah, and he's not as laid back as this guy's kind of in a trance. Like he's just kind of like he doesn't know what to do with himself, and he's all this money, and he lives in this giant house, and I kind of feel like he got involved in this real estate deal just to have something to do.
Yes.
And then, even in Tron, where he's just kind of like, hey, I wrote this program. Hey, Jeff Bridges, that's just inherent in a lot of Jeff Bridges' characters. He's just kind of very laid back and relaxed.
Yeah.
With the exception of Iron Man. That's the opposite.
Iron Man, I don't think in Blown Away, it's been a long time since I've seen Blown Away, but I don't remember him being laid back in that either with Tommy Lee Jones.
I have to confess, I've never seen Blown Away.
Okay, it's not a bad movie. Maybe that'll be when we finish up with Schwarzenegger.
That would be
Jeff Bridges.
That would be a good interim if we do like episodes in between seasons, because we've been talking about that a little bit. But
some random movies that are tangentially connected to actors in Schwarzenegger movies.
Pencil that in, because I feel like I'm one of the few people, the few guys our age who's never seen Blown Away.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters, and that's probably the last time I saw it is in theaters, and that was like 1992 or 93. I don't remember.
Right, we'll have to keep it in mind. But
yes, so we get the plot, and then the next cut actually makes sense. So the one that made no sense, of going from the Civil War to a car chase in the 70s, we then get cut to the gym. That makes sense, right? I mean, that's going to be the focal point of the movie, and we get the gym where most of this movie is going to take place.
One of the few moments where this plot actually has momentum and feels like it's moving forward, because from this point where he meets everyone at the gym until like 2/3 of the way through the movie, this movie just kind of goes in circles. Just like, hey, let's hang out, let's go do things, and nice,
let's
people
go
hooking up with each other, and it's just stuff happening,
showing a slice of Americana,
which is fine up to a point. Like, I don't mind that, but something needs to happen at some point. I mean, it does. I may be being a little harsh. I don't dislike the movie, but the kind of meandering nature of a lot of movies from this period really annoys me. But
So on the marquee, there's a marquee for the gym, and it's Joe Santo, which I can't tell you how much I love that name. I know I've made this huge deal about how very Anglo, almost it seems like every Schwarzenegger name is Joe Santo is just a great name.
Well, there actually is a reason, I think, this time, because it's funny how they make a point to say he's Austrian.
Yes.
Like they actually try to explain it, but his name is still Joe Santo. And it's because I looked it up after I watched the movie the first time. In the original novel, Joe Santo was French-Canadian.
Ah, okay.
So I don't know if that's a French name. I guess maybe, but
It would seem like, though, is it really that big of a deal to change a character's name to...
Right. If you're going to change his background, if you're going to
Right.
say that he's Austrian, make it an Austrian name. It is kind of jarring, like Joe Santo.
Well, to me, it just... Maybe it set the tone for the rest of his career, which is great. I mean, it brings a smile to my face, some of the names he's had. Joe Santo was a perfect for introducing formerly Arnold Schwarzenegger as Joe Santo.
It is a good name, though. And you could just assume, like, he changed his name when he came to America.
Yes, so we get that, and what maybe a silhouette of Arnold on the marquee.
Yeah, I wrote down the marquee, and I don't know, like, some of these things, I don't necessarily... I think there's just the archaic terms for things from 70s gyms, because it says Olympic spa for men and women, and then there's a bunch of, like, just words. It just says reducing, gaining, steam, massage, mineral bath. Which I assume was mineral bath, but it's like split halfway down.
It's like somebody just decided, we're going to play a word association game for our sign. I'm going to tell you gym, bodybuilding, and what do you think of? And that's what we're going to put on the sign.
Well, it's reducing and gaining, which I kind of understand what they mean, but it's just that's things, the ways to describe a gym that you would never use today. It's very strange. And then it says Joe Santo, Mr. Austria, trains here.
Yes.
So, yeah, and it's got his silhouette. Would you think that's specifically
I don't
Arnold's
know if it
silhouette?
is. I'd like to think that was Arnold.
It looks pretty close.
Arnold's silhouette. I'd like to think they spent a lot of the budget there. So
but you're not wrong, because he goes inside and it's the chintziest gym you've ever seen. How much could this gym possibly cost? Like, he could buy this thing with the change in his pocket.
I was going to say, whatever the asking price is, it's too much, because there's just no, other than the actual physical piece of land that it sits on, there is no intrinsic value in that gym.
And there's nobody ever in there.
No.
There's maybe 20 pieces of equipment,
Yes.
if that.
I mean, I can't imagine that at the worst hotel that you could go to right now that has workout facilities, and I mean, when we're talking, like bad, like it's, there are probably dead bodies in the swimming pool.
Right.
It would be a better workout facility than what this gym has.
That's totally the vibe that you're getting from this. I mean, I have no idea what gyms
We're like in the 70s. Yeah.
I barely know what gyms are like today. Just look at me. But, and maybe that's what gyms are like, but man, if so, those are very sad places. You know? I would not want to train in that gym.
So we get Blake's character to walk in, and then we get an introduction to the another headliner, Sally Field, as Mary Tate.
Yeah. And this is more or less her first movie, because I did listen to that commentary.
Okay.
And the director, Bob Rafelson, who I've not seen a lot of his stuff. He's kind of well known. He did 5 Easy Pieces, which is very, very well regarded, and I've never seen that with Jack Nicholson.
I haven't seen it either.
I have seen the movie Head, the Monkees movie, which is crazy.
I have not seen that either. Wow.
I'm kind of fascinated by the Monkees, so I have seen it, but it's super psychedelic and crazy. Like, it's actually kind of worth seeing.
I'll have to mark that one down along with You and Blown Away.
Well, it's just one of those things, like, it's why, just very briefly, I'm kind of fascinated by the Monkees, just in that they started out as a manufactured thing, but then they kind of broke out and became
something.
The druggiest drug band you've ever, like, and that's kind of what that movie is like. It's very, very psychedelic.
Interesting.
And he directed that, and that's the only one of his movies I've ever seen. But anyway, he was saying on the commentary, he wanted to also say introducing Sally Field, but he didn't want to have 2 introducings in the credits, because he's also introducing Arnold Schwarzenegger, so Arnold won out.
Well, and I think that would be kind of weird too. I mean, because she was beyond a known commodity.
Oh, she was a big television star.
Yeah, and I assumed some of the reason, in particular, when we get there, I assumed, and maybe the commentary talked about it. I didn't get a chance to listen to the commentary, but there were certain things here that it just seemed to me that this was the 70s version of what I think she was Gidget in The Flying Nun. The 70s version of a Disney star desperately wanting to get rid of her image from what she was most famous for, The Flying Nun and Gidget, because there's some things here that just I understand it was the 70s, but it just makes no sense other than Sally Field wanted to break what her image was.
Yeah, there's probably some truth to that. I think if that was true, she could have gone a lot farther with it. Because this movie has no compunction to showing like nudity. That's kind of what you're getting at. Is kind of
well, I guess what I'm getting at. Well, it doesn't matter when we get there. But I mean, it seems like it goes out of the way when she'll head back to Blake's house, and the morning after, she's looking at pictures on the wall. It's just so that we can see her butt, but they actually make it a point to have her turn her head so that it's not a body double. To me, that just screamed to me that it's like, oh yeah, we want Sally Field, or somebody wants you to know this is really her.
Yeah, but she didn't go all. It's rural nudity, even if she didn't do the frontal nudity. So I'm saying, and that's not even. I'm saying like she's supposed to kind of be playing this kind of very. I don't know if crass is the right word, but like just very like down to earth. There's the whole like slobs versus snobs part that happens later.
Yes.
And she's in part of this. She's in the slob camp, but she could have pushed that a lot farther and been a lot more.
Yeah, I guess so. To me, that's what it seemed like to me. But anyway,
no, I think you're right. I think she didn't go far enough.
So we get her to Mary Tate to show Blake upstairs, where we get another, which I had zero clue that Freddy Krueger was coming.
Right. Me neither.
So I was completely blown away. I'm like, I mean, I knew Schwarzenegger, I knew Bridges, and I had no clue that Freddy Krueger was in this movie.
And kind of enters in a startling way, because even before Jeff Bridges is all the way up the stairs, he's just like, "Hi there," and he's sticking his hand out. And it's just like, even when you don't realize it's Freddy Krueger, it's kind of like frightening. He
jumps right out at you, and you're like, then you get a second. It's like, man, he could have just slashed him right there if he's had his glove on.
Even before it's Freddy Krueger, it's like, well, that guy's being really aggressive. Oh God, it's Freddy Krueger. That's even more scary.
It's even more scary.
Yeah, but he's just touring the place. There's an old guy sitting on a rotating barrel. What the hell is that? You remember that guy?
I remember that guy. Again with this Jim. You know what? Some of the stuff in Thor, which comes right after. I shouldn't call him Freddy Krueger. We should actually use
Robert Englund. Well, I don't remember any of the characters' names, so I'll probably I'll forget Robert Englund's name at some point. But
so we eventually get him to make the introduction to the owner, which is Thor.
Thor Eriksson.
Thor Eriksson, which is the
most Viking ass name. It's so like you couldn't come up with a more Nordic name. Thor Eriksson.
You couldn't, and what it reminded me of was the Running Man, actually. And I've got to score some steroids, but it is not the same person. Much to my disappointment.
No, we exchanged a Sven for a Thor.
A Sven for a Thor, and so, but no. What came to my mind in this gym, particularly? Thank you for the the barrel. It seems like this is what Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. It seems like these are the types of things he would put in a workout facility.
Yeah, it seems way too old timey for the 70s. I mean, even the thing you always see like the cliched old timey exercise thing where it's like the towel that goes around your waist and shakes. Even that seems like more of a workout. At least I'm sure it makes you like clench up. How does sitting on a rotating barrel?
I don't know.
What does that even do? But
I don't know. So Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund's name is Franklin, and if we can remember it, it is Franklin, and the owner is Thor.
Yeah, Thor will remember, right? That's a memorable name.
Thor is a memorable name and a memorable character. And so Blake tries to make an introduction and say that he might be interested in buying it. Thor's an interesting guy. He's having nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how to describe it other than the discussion breaks down into it's not really wrestling. I don't know what it is, but it's surreal.
Yeah, first of all, he starts like pawing at his waist. He's just I think he's trying to get him in some kind of wrestling move, and Jeff Bridges kind of like
moves away out of it.
And he's like, okay, well, I'll talk business. Let's come into my office. And while they're going into the office, he hooks him and like puts him on his back.
And it's hooks his arms up and then is like trying to flip him over his back. The first thought I had was, is this guy, I know it's the 70s, this guy's just as high as a kite? What is going on?
We learn plenty about that later.
Yes, we learned plenty about it later. But at this point, at least my first time through, I'm like, what is going on?
This guy, I think it's pretty clear that he's supposed to be funny. He's supposed to be a comic character. But he's too creepy to be funny.
Oh, yeah, he's not. If that was the intention... They
failed.
He's
frightening. He starts out creepy, and then they push him way further to the. Yeah, it's. But like watching this, I'm going like, this. I feel like this should be funny, but I'm not laughing at all. Like, this
No,
guy
if he's
creeps
supposed
me
to be
out.
the comic relief, Danny Madigan from Last Action Hero, he is not comic relief.
You know,
he starts out, as you said, creepy, and it just gets dialed up. I mean, by the end, really high.
Yeah, that's part of the stuff that I had some real trouble with. Let's save it because that character, boy, they go places with him that
I agree. That
shouldn't.
Don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and then later that night they all go out to. Oh no, I guess he comes back. I almost skipped the part where he comes back later.
Well,
where they introduce Arnold.
I was going to say, we introduced Arnold, and I thought it was great, too, because he's working out. I don't know if it's a Batman costume, Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
Again, this is just so much of this. It's like, what is going on? I know the voice, but you don't get his face right away because he's wearing this like cheap plastic mask that I remember wearing that you could barely breathe as a kid, at Halloween.
Right. It looks like one of those where it's got just a thing that ties around the back of your head.
Yeah, a real cheap like rubber band holding it on. It's like, why? And eventually they explain. I think it's in a later scene why he does it to try and lighten the mood. But when you're watching this, it's like what. From back-to-back scenes, it's like, what is going on in this movie?
Yeah, I have a note here at this point where I wrote, this movie is a fever dream. Because it's such a crazy, just every scene is just like, what is even happening? There's Thor and there's this, and the thing that immediately my mind jumped to is those creepy dudes from Eyes Wide Shut.
Oh, yeah, in the... So what you're saying is Blake had the password. It was Fidelio.
It's Fidelio.
But he only had the password to get into the party.
That was the door password. Yeah, but that's what that looked like more than anything, more than Phantom of the Opera.
So what you're saying? So I think what we've now determined is this movie influenced the Coen brothers to bring on Jeff Bridges as the dude, and it also influenced Stanley Kubrick for Eyes Wide Shut. That's what you're telling me.
I mean, it's as surreal as Eyes Wide Shut. That's for sure. I did learn as far as why he's wearing this. The one thing I learned a couple of things from the commentary, but Bob Rafelson did explain he wanted to save the reveal of Arnold's physique until the end of the movie because it's interesting to think about a time when people weren't familiar with him, and so he wanted to save it.
That makes
until
sense.
the end, so the audience would be like, "Oh wow, like that guy's really,
that guy is jacked."
Yeah, seriously. So the problem then became like, well, how is he going to work? What's he going to be wearing when he works out? Because he's got to be covered up if we're going to save it. And they just came up with this crazy suit, this crazy mask, and whatever it is. He's wearing a cape.
Yeah, he's wearing. I don't know if it's Phantom of the Opera, whatever it was. That is interesting. I'm glad you got a chance to listen to the commentary, though, and I guess it does kind of make sense if that's and the bodybuilding thing is the reason he's in this, and one of the plot doesn't move very much, but that is one of the plot points. So that is, I guess, a good choice to have that as kind of one of the big reveals.
Yeah. So this is where we learn that Robert Englund is this grease man, and
yes, you learn what a grease man is. You learn that Joe Santo, he's a great bowler, he's a great swimmer, curling. He basically does it all. He's a very interesting man.
Well, I noted my note on that was only one of those three things requires athleticism.
That is true. Bowling is a skill.
Yeah, and curling, like.
That's probably skill too.
Yeah, I don't think swimming, sure. Olympic swimmer, yeah, you need to be athletic, but you can be an Olympic curler, and I don't think you really need to be athletic. It doesn't really prove much. I mean, whatever it does. I think they're just trying to establish that he's really like he has very eclectic interests and tastes, and we learn more.
There's a lot of talent and talent and skill.
Yeah,
and so we get this scene at Hank's. Not a lot of time needs to be spent, but this is the first one where I'll definitely lump into your category of this is just a bunch of stuff that happens. The one thing I did learn is that if you're down in Birmingham, Alabama, do not pretend to play at Auburn University.
Yeah,
that is what I learned from this because you're going to get a pool rack in the head, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah, pool rack, not a pool cue.
Not a pool cue.
Go get a pool cue if you're going to hit someone. If you're going to start a bar fight and there's a pool table. Don't use the triangle. Don't use that. Well, go get a cue and hit someone in the head. That's a perfect weapon. I'm going to hit you with this triangle. That scene, maybe it was my imagination, or it's hard to tell in movies like this, like how much is undertone or whatever. Because there's that character Lamar, and he's like worried about not Lamar, Newton.
I don't know
where I got Lamar.
Newton also is introduced in the first sequence. Ask him if he plays hockey. We didn't cover Newton.
Yeah, but he's worried. He starts he's like, oh, he's a spy. He starts thinking about Better not be
for
no
the
spy.
competition, right?
Oh, for the competition.
Yes.
That makes more sense. Okay.
Yeah, it was a spy for the competition. The bodybuilding didn't want they wanted to protect what Joe looked like.
Because and what I mean about undertones is I was sitting there going like, spy what? Like what's he going to uncover? And I'm thinking, and then later there's the line about like, oh, I heard a lot of people in your profession are and Arnold is like homosexual. So I was like, okay, is there that going on? Is like a YMCA thing happening?
I got you. Yeah, no, I think it was I'm not sure what advantage you could get by knowing what your competition looked like, because how much can you really change at this point? But that's what it was. It was a spy for the competition.
And that makes sense. But that's the part that made me start to speculate. I was like, spy? What do you mean spy? Like, what are you spying on? Okay. So, yeah, I probably read too much into it, because there was, when they're playing pool, Jeff Bridges and Robert Englund are playing pool, and Jeff Bridges goes, "You got a hot stick, man, real hot." And I'm going like, ooh, if this is a YMCA situation, be careful what you say. They might get the wrong idea.
So the only thing I took away, other than, I mean, you already got that a fight breaks out, and Franklin, by the way, is the one who starts it. You can't trust Freddy Krueger because he does a sucker punch to the nuts, which I can understand why somebody would come at you with a... I agree, it should be probably a cue rather than the rack, but whatever. I can understand why you'd be upset.
Yeah.
But the one thing I took away is we have another character that's introduced here. And she's a karate instructor.
Yeah, the karate instructor. Yeah.
I don't have her name. Maybe you've got it. But the one thing I know is they're having some discussion, and Blake is talking about hunting, and he's talking about dove hunting.
Yes.
And all I could think about is he's talking about having bags of doves. All I could think about is Arrested Development. That his freezer, there actually might be a reason why Job wrote on the brown paper bag, "Dead dove, do not eat," because apparently people down in the South do keep doves in their freezer.
Was it a bag of doves?
He was talking about hunting doves, and I think...
hunting doves. Okay.
Yeah, but I think he was talking about bagging them, and so all I could think of is that there's a brown paper bag in his freezer with "Dead dove, do not eat" written on it.
I didn't pick up that he's bagging doves. But
yes.
What I did pick up, and you'll have to give me a ruling on this, because not gonna be a lot of counts in this one, but Blake says when she kind of, her name is Anita, the karate teacher.
Okay, Anita. I
don't
know if I ever remember hearing it, but anyway,
I think you learn it later. I wouldn't have, if I didn't have it written down, I wouldn't remember. That's for sure. But yeah, he's talking about hunting. Is it doves he's hunting?
Yeah.
Okay, and she kind of objects to it, and he says, "Well, it's cheaper than shooting craps and better than shooting people."
What's that mean?
I don't know, but I think that's a borderline pun, so I want a ruling on that.
Because
shooting craps and shooting people, there's a double meaning.
Well, you know what? This one on both the body count, I'm gonna give it a ruling. Let's give that one.
Okay, yeah, because we're gonna have to stretch on all, basically
extremely stretch.
Okay, so that's pun number one then. I thought it was probably good, and she's really interfering too. I wrote down Blake and Mary Tate
seem to be getting along.
Yeah, and she's just there, just sticking her nose in the middle. Just, get out of here,
Yes.
she's really playing defense over there.
So after the fight, Blake goes to the bathroom to start trying to clean the blood up.
Yeah.
And Joe Santo just randomly comes into the bathroom and says hello.
Yeah, and they just the thing that infuriated me is he goes, "Oh, sorry, I wasn't here to help," meaning with the fight. I'm going like, yeah, me too. Yeah. What am I watching this movie for? You're not doing anything.
You're not doing anything. You're off camera.
Yeah, it's like, why? If you're going to have Arnold Schwarzenegger, this huge dude, and you're going to have a fight scene, just have him show up after it's over, like, "Oh, sorry, I wasn't here."
It is pretty anticlimactic.
Yeah, give this is what drives me crazy about 70s movies. It's just like deliberately not having the thing. I mean, maybe I'm being unfair, but it's just, come on.
So you
put him in the fight.
You were giving it the already the Millhouse from The Simpsons. When are they going to get to the fireworks factory? Is that what you're telling me?
But it's but I'm saying,
I know it was intentional.
Don't have them there at all. It's just it's just deliberately frustrating. Of just like
dangling it, saying, "Oh, look what we didn't do."
Right, exactly. Sorry, I wasn't there for the fight. But anyway,
so after that, we cut to them all, the gang. Blake is becoming quite friendly, having them back to the plantation. I didn't even have any notes from this because it's just random.
They're just talking about nothing.
There is nothing noteworthy. At least I had "Dead dove, do not eat" from the bar. But the first scene where they all come back and they've become pretty chummy pretty quick.
Yeah.
But they're talking. I mean, there's nothing to that scene.
Well, Robert Englund's being very rude about Blake's parents. Because she's like, oh, if they're dead, then you own this house. And Anita's like, shut up. Be a little more sensitive. His parents died. And then Arnold's very impressed by his collection of cut glass.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I didn't forget about the cut glass. That actually, no, maybe I'm a little unfair. That was pretty entertaining because he's like bringing pieces to show Mary Tate.
I like the idea of it, but he just brings in a very ordinary, just drinking glass.
Yes,
it's like it's obviously a very nice kind of piece of crystal, but it's just like this belongs in a museum. It's like, well, why? It's a piece of glass.
It actually looks like it belongs on a dinner table.
It's just a piece of crystal. Yeah, what belongs in a museum? He's Indiana Joe.
Indiana Joe.
Yeah, but then I think probably this scene is here because I think you go right from this to him at the country club. Is that what's next?
Yeah, so you cut to introduction of Ed Begley Jr. for a brief moment, but yes, at the country club.
He's got his friends. There's like 3 or 4 of them. And,
yep.
I think that scene at the mansion is just there to contrast. Like, here's his new friends, and then here's his old friends. His rich old,
probably.
So, and they're just, again, not really talking about anything in particular.
You know what I'm thinking here? You're right. The slobs versus the snobs. This movie was far-reaching. I'm sure that Harold Ramis was probably absorbing this, and that's how Caddyshack was born. They just decided to refine it and make it a much more entertaining movie.
To replace bodybuilding with golf.
Yes, bodybuilding with golf, and you get a much better movie. But yes,
so wait, is Chevy Chase Joe Santo in that scenario?
Yeah, I think so. That's quite the difference between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Chevy Chase.
I just wonder if we can do a 1-for-1 match. I haven't seen Caddyshack recently enough to do that, but I wonder how close you could get it. It's like who's Freddy Krueger in this scenario? Who's Rodney Dangerfield in?
Well, I can tell you right now who Thor definitely is.
I haven't
Bill
seen
Murray's character.
Oh.
Both of them are extremely crazy.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That I can buy.
But anyway,
I just want to know who Rodney Dangerfield is in Stay Hungry. Is it?
I would say Rodney
Sally Field.
No, Rodney Dangerfield. Let's see on the slob side.
Or maybe it is Jeff Bridges.
It probably is. Yeah.
I'll bet you could do a 1-to-1. We don't have time right now.
Yes, I should have thought this through more, but I didn't know this discussion. I'd find so many connections to later movies that Stay Hungry influenced.
Yeah, but it is the kind of thing where I think if this had been made even 5 years later, it would have been that kind of a movie.
Probably
a very like Harold Ramis-ish slob versus snob story.
Yes, and much more comedic, lighthearted.
Right.
Not random weird stuff. So, yeah, the country club, you get them, and really the only thing that really comes of it is that, yes, one, he's in this world down in the South from his family, not necessarily, his accomplishments, but then also you get that his other business partner, who's a member of the club, is getting anxious that he's not moving forward on his no rough stuff type deal. He's not getting the job done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of these people earned these are all old money kids,
yes.
Right? Like none of them actually earned any money. All of them inherited it. But yeah, this is where Amy, who has the party later, he thinks she's gold to my ear, but she's not. She's just Amy. But I looked this up, and I would have never unless actually I think I got it from the commentary, and then I looked it up. But played by Fannie Flagg, who wrote the novel Fried Green Tomatoes.
Never would have known that.
Exactly.
Very interesting.
It's a weird connection there. Never read that, never seen the movie, but there you go. It's something. It's a bit of trivia.
Stay Hungry has a lot of things going for it.
Yes, it does.
So after we get the snobs introduced and get the plot moving a little, it's not moving forward, but being reminded of what it is, which is he really needs to buy this gym.
Yeah.
We cut back to the gym, and Joe is working out with Thor. And this is, I guess, furthering he's getting ready for the Mr. Universe, which even the second time through, I'm like, why would the Mr. Universe be taking place in Birmingham, Alabama?
Well, and also that Thor is running it. I think this is where you learn that. And it's just like, that guy is running the Mr. Universe competition?
And
he's
the
holding
thing
all the money?
That, I don't know if it wasn't as big of a competition maybe at this time. I don't know. It
could be.
So maybe it wasn't, and maybe there are regional things, and it sounded like there were regional performances or whatever.
How could there be a regional Mr. Universe? It's the universe.
I don't know.
Mr. Universe (parentheses Alabama).
It was really confusing to me. Again, yes, because Thor is a creepy dude,
yeah.
And of all the places in the world, why would it be in Birmingham, Alabama? And I actually also wondered to myself the second time through, why does this movie take place there? Because, today when I see, we watch movies, it's like, oh, it's because of tax credits. That's the reason why Breaking Bad is in Albuquerque, and, this movie's down in, or True Detective was taking place in Louisiana. It's because of tax credits many times.
Right.
But that didn't exist back then, so it just seemed really random why it was there, and they'd have Mr. Universe taking place in Birmingham, Alabama.
Well, I can tell you this also from the commentary.
Oh,
Apparently,
fantastic.
I learned a lot from the commentary, more than I
Excellent.
realized. But the author of the original novel and co-author Charles Gaines is his name.
Yes.
The novel was semi-autobiographical. He's from Birmingham, and apparently, the Jeff Bridges character is loosely based on himself. Whether or not he actually
was the bodybuilding also, or was
I think so. I think that's all. He somehow became friends with a bodybuilder, and
okay.
All that stuff. I think a lot of this is semi-auto. I don't know how much.
Right, what you know.
Right. I mean, he wasn't on the commentary. It would have been interesting if he was. I don't know if he's still alive or what, but I think that, and really all it comes down to, I think certainly the reason why it's set in Birmingham is because Charles Gaines was from Birmingham.
Okay.
So I mean, that at least is that.
So then you get some of the stuff I really liked. I'm not sure if he was acting, but you get a couple of scenes here or sequences. I don't know. It's really the same scene of Schwarzenegger teaching Bridges, how to work out.
Well, he shows up to try to close this deal because the guy at the country club pestered him. He's like, "You got to close this deal."
Yep.
He goes over and tries to talk to Thor, and Thor's like, "It's Saturday. I don't talk business." And so I think it's Jeff Bridges is just like, "Well, I'm here. I'll work out."
I've got a little workout in. What I had in my notes is it seemed like it was just Arnold being Arnold. It didn't seem like he was necessarily acting in any of this.
Yeah, this feels very like it was all they were just kind of making it up as they went and improvising it. There's the part where Blake gets on. He stomach down on a thing, and he's just like, "Oh, when I was in school, we used to do this." And
I never do that.
Never do that one.
That was a great line.
That's the best line from that scene.
Yeah, I think it was intended to be a comedic moment too, but I do think it worked. I never do that one.
Well, I'm sure it was an ad lib by Arnold, and they were editing. And it's like, "Oh, that's actually funny. Let's leave that in." That'd be my guess. But yeah, and this is where we learn about. First of all, we learn why he wears the Batman outfit.
Yes.
Because he thinks it's funny. He goes, "Last year I wore a Frogman costume." You should have seen that one. He says something like that. And then,
you get the background that Thor helped Joe, and Joe come over, and that's the reason why he's working so hard to try and win Mystery Universe to pay him the money back.
Yeah, he doesn't care about the title. He needs the money to pay back Thor, which is the thing. How exploitative are we to believe this relationship is? It feels a little bit exploitative to the point where I feel like Jeff Bridges or Blake, who is rich, should, if he's
intervene,
becoming friends with this guy, just be like, you're doing this all just to pay back Thor. I'll cover you. I've got all this money I don't know what to do with anyway.
Yeah, I
at least have that scene. I mean, you could have the scene and then have Joe Santo go like, "No, I don't feel comfortable. Have his pride get in the way."
Yeah, something like that. But you're right. Thor is for this type of movie. He's a very interesting character because you might be able to put him in your Legion of Doom. I think he would fit right. What's ironic is he belongs with the Legion of Doom, right?
Sure does.
We'll eventually get there.
He sure does. Yeah. If it wasn't Thor, if it was anybody other than that, you'd be like, "Oh, that makes sense. He paid for him to get over, and Joe Santo's trying to pay him back." But because it's Thor, you're going like, it just feels so exploited. Everything that guy does feels gross and exploited,
creeping. So again, we get another cut to a random party somewhere.
Yeah, this one's fun though. I enjoyed. It's just kind of fun hanging out with them to a large degree.
It kind of is. It has the line which I had a note on is I can only speak for myself on his profession of the homosexual.
Yeah,
which was I thought pretty interesting because in the 70s, we're recording this in 2015. It's a completely different world in 2015. That actually was probably a pretty big deal. Talking, kind of about that.
Just acknowledging it?
Yeah, I think it probably was.
Probably. I don't know. I mean, the 70s was kind of when it started to open up. We mentioned YMCA earlier. There was that stuff. It was a little more like encoded, It was kind of like in double speak where you couldn't really come out and say it, but you kind of, YMCA, the song, isn't actually about,
it's not, but
to hear it, you wouldn't know.
But there still was a lot. I mean, the 80s and there was a lot of progress to be made. So I guess what I'm saying is that's not something that I expected necessarily to be kind of openly acknowledged.
Yeah, I agree.
in a bodybuilding movie from 1976 or whenever this movie.
Well, in that same vein, those jorts that Jeff Bridges is wearing certainly that's its own progress in and of itself.
I have it written down that that's just another Arrested Development moment. That's where Tobias Funke's cutoffs come from. Is the dead dove and the cutoffs are from that scene.
Yeah, these jorts. He wears them so often. There's like 4 scenes. It's just like, stop wearing those. Oh my God, stop. Jeff Bridges. It is the 70s.
And so we along with this, what we didn't say is there's a character that's brought along that's it's not really Blake's date. I'm not sure what she is, but she's one of the snobs. Yeah. And maybe she's not even really a full snob, but she's from his other world that he's bringing along to this party. She seems to take a liking to Joe, and then Blake is able to.
She sure does.
Yes, is able to then scoot away with Mary Tate and go water skiing. And so all I have is. It's probably only a minute of the movie, but I'm like, why is there water skiing in this movie?
I think it was just the filmmakers wanted to hang out by a river and go water skiing, and it's just like, let's just make a scene where they go water skiing, so now we can go water skiing.
Apparently so. I don't know.
But in the vein of that slobs versus snobs thing, when because her name is Dorothy, this woman from the country club.
Okay, Dorothy.
And Mary Tate, when they first meet each other, she's got a beer. She's like, you want a beer? And she just opens it right in her face, and just like, is the most like forced, like, where are the slobs? It's just trying a little too hard.
Now I remember it. I forgot about to set the differential between them.
Right, the class gap between the two couples, but who do swap halfway through because they're kind of.
It's the 70s, so of course they're going to.
Well, at the end of the date, because Blake's there with Dorothy and Joe's there with Mary Tate, and then by the end of the night they've switched dates. And Dorothy says something like, she goes like, "Is that what they call pimping?" Remember that line?
Yes.
I was like, that's the correct thing to say. Like, that's maybe the funniest line of the movie.
It was a good one, and
because Joe Santo's like, Mary Tate or Blake, why don't you drive Mary Tate home? And she's like, okay, gotcha. And then once they leave,
wink.
Right, exactly.
So what I took from it is that, oh, look, it's the swinging 70s. Apparently, even on dates, they're just going to randomly swap and trade dates.
Yeah.
And so now, we get Mary Tate and Blake's character in his house. They get friendly with one another. And this is what I said, too, that the morning after, I'm not sure how much of that really matters. The morning after, I'm just convinced that it was Sally Field. She wanted to make sure everybody knew this is really my butt. This isn't some body double. This is really me. I am Gidget and the Flying Nun no more.
Yeah. It's a weird scene because she like, when in the morning she wakes up and she goes, "You lied to me." And it's like, what's she angry about? And then she turns out she's like, "Oh, you're not a businessman. You're a hunter. Look at all these trophies." It's like, what? Are you actually upset or is she joking? Like, I didn't understand that conversation at all.
No.
Like, why? I still don't know if she was actually upset. Like, even if she's pretending to be upset about what, like, I don't know. But this is where Scatman Crothers shows up.
William. And what's great is that I don't know if it was intentional or what, but he looks like he tied one on the night before himself. I mean, he's got a bow tie, but he just looks disheveled.
I think they're just trying. He's just playing an old man because he wasn't that old at the time. But I think they're trying to. They put like a weird wig on him. I don't know if you noticed that.
I didn't notice that.
I don't think that's his hair.
Okay,
but I think they're trying to make him look much older. Like he's trying to play like this old decrepit guy because he's been in their service. I think they say for 52 years.
I was going to say for decades. I don't remember how many, but
I'm pretty sure the number is 52. So if you figure he's been employed with the family for 52 years, he's at least his upper 60s, lower 70s.
Yeah.
But I don't think Scatman Crothers must have been in his 50s, late 40s.
So he, he's Alfred to Bruce Wayne, but he's quite disappointed in Blake and who in the company that he's keeping.
Yeah, he doesn't come out and say it yet, but you can see it.
You can see it in his reaction.
Although, come on, don't just barge in. Like, I don't care. Like he must know that she's there.
Yeah.
How could he not know? I mean, maybe he was.
It's a big place, but there's nobody else there, so it's not that big.
Yeah, and they have breakfast, and this is where we learn that Blake's parents died in a plane crash. He tells the story, and not much more happens there. It's just that's.
Not really. The only thing that I had noted is that I get the Ken Burns music again during that him explaining that. And I'm like, oh, I'm back in a Civil War movie. For a while, I was in the 70s, but I'm headed back to the Civil War.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. Yeah, again, I really have nothing to say about this score because there's not a lot of it, and when it is, it's just that stuff.
Yes.
But we're coming up on all the bluegrass, like all the mountain music coming up, and that stuff I kind of like because the skiing sequence, it's all just like banjo music, and then the end of the movie when the chaos ensues, which we'll get to. Like a lot of this movie is just scored by just banjo, which I kind of enjoyed, even though a lot of times it was a weird fit. Like that last scene where we shouldn't get too far ahead of ourselves, but that stuff I liked. That piece of the score I liked. The Civil War Ken Burns stuff, not so much.
So we again, this is a rough transition, but we get a poker game going between all of the Legion of Doom. I believe we've described them.
This time I called them the League of Shadows. Oh. Apparently, I wasn't consistent with my stuff.
I like it though because I just referenced that it was Alfred and Bruce Wayne, and now we have the League of Shadows. Yes. Apparently, Ra's al Ghul is involved in this movie.
Apparently so.
Yeah. I don't really have anything. They're restless. I mean, that's really all I have. Again,
we get no new information. It's just to remind us that they exist.
They exist. Yeah. So don't forget about these guys. Don't forget about the League of Shadows.
Well, it's the kind of thing where this movie is trying to keep the tension. It's trying to remind you that there is kind of some plot tension there, but the characters are not acting. Like Blake is not acting in any way like he's feeling the heat from these guys. He doesn't care. He's just kind of meandering around, hanging out, doing
going water skiing. He's having sex on the stairs. Right. He's having breakfast. He's a dude, right? I mean, he could just as easily be wandering into Ralph's right now, right, trying to get some half and half.
Quite possibly the laziest man in Birmingham.
Yes, in Birmingham, exactly.
I guess that's why that scene's there. Is just the audience needs to be reminded, like, hey, there actually is a plot. It's still happening.
We're not there yet, but it's still there. There is a plot. Yeah. So now from that we transition back. I think Mary Tate and Craig are on a date. Is what I think.
Yeah. Speaking of the most pointless scene in the movie, this scene, and it's funny because on the commentary, Bob Rafelson flat out admits it. Because the scene where they're out on a date and they're talking. Sally
Field is in an extremely short dress.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, I wouldn't want my daughter going out. I kind of laugh. I'm like, wow, this is not the South that I know.
There's no question that her posterior was one of the stars of this movie.
Yes,
they're definitely it's getting a lot of attention from the camera.
Yes,
but she's talking about how she doesn't read fortune cookies. She saves them, and then at the end of her life, she wants to read them all and see how her life went. Which is an interesting idea. It's funny because I have a similar policy, although I don't save them, but I never read fortune cookies. I have a policy. Whenever I'm getting Chinese, I will eat the cookie. And I deliberately, you
don't want to know your future.
My policy is never read it. So because it's pointless. It's just a thing.
I thought maybe you just took Dr. Emmett Brown's advice too seriously that no man should know too much about his own future.
Yeah, maybe. I either don't take those cookies seriously or take them very seriously. It's one or the other.
So in this pointless scene, the only thing I don't know why I enjoyed it, but I did kind of enjoy just the randomness. First, the thing I had was that it was at the Bank for Savings building. I just liked that. So apparently people just save their money there. No loans are made at this bank. Just deposits are taken at the Bank of Savings. I thought it was great. And maybe it's because I'm in banking, but I'm sure that probably was a real bank.
Is it like the opposite of a credit union? It's savings union.
It just takes deposits. But so then the entire scene is they look up in this office building and there's a painting on the wall. And Mary Tate makes mention of it, and Blake decides, I'm going to steal it.
It's on the second floor, and they're across the street, and she goes like, that's a nice painting. It's how can you even tell what... And it turns out she didn't even know what it was, because she was wrong.
Yes.
Yeah, he goes in and he steals this painting. It's just like, I'm going to have this adventure. We're going to go in and steal this painting. And I was going to say, this is what Bob Rafelson admitted on the commentary. This is just a scene he had written for another movie that didn't get made. And he's just like, I really like this scene, and I wanted it to be in a movie. So I put it in this one. He's like, yeah, it has nothing to do with anything. There's no reason for this scene to be here.
I thought, well, here's what I'll say. I enjoyed the scene, but I will admit that just to jam it into a movie because I kind of like the randomness doesn't make any sense either.
It is a weird fit because Blake goes from this kind of guy who is just kind of coasting and not...
Right, and all of a sudden takes initiative.
Yeah, he's just, and he's just this weird comedic character who's outsmarting everybody. It's a weird fit. But yeah, he goes up and he steals this painting, and then he brings it down, and she goes, oh, it's flowers. I thought it was a lion. I don't want it. And he just gives it to some passerby. Who and the passerby played by the director, by the way.
Oh, I didn't
Bob
know that.
Rafelson.
He decides, I'm going to keep this painting.
Yeah, he's just like, I'll keep it. That's the one part of the scene that's kind of funny. Like,
So from now that we've established that it was just a random scene that was in there for no real reason, we go back to the gym, so we're at least back at the focal point.
Right.
And we're getting a karate class. The only thing I really have is that we eventually get to more indication of dialing up the creepiness of Thor is really what I get from this sequence.
Oh yeah, that for sure. But before we get to that, I liked this karate sequence. Just these like inept, like it seems like housewives, yeah, and just her frustration about like I don't know if they're terrible learners or I'm a terrible teacher, and she tells the story about the housewife who hit. Oh, she punched her husband in his private area. She says. And then
I have karate chop to the nuts to settle marital issues.
I like the way she described it, though, his private area. And then that woman comes in. I forget, we learn her name. Then she comes in like, we see her overzealousness.
Yeah, so what I was reminded of is this is actually somewhat of Caddyshack-esque of when the caddies are out with some of the inept golfers. In particular, there's one with D'Annunzio out with the Havercams, and they're two old people that are just absolutely terrible. That's what this scene made me think of, is
yeah.
the quote-unquote slobs having to deal with, I know they're not necessarily the snobs, the housewives, but I kind of made that connection.
Yeah, but this scene, literally nothing happens. We get that comedic karate scene, then we see Thor being a creep, which we already kind of knew he was a creep.
Yes, but we're dialing it up. Now he's a peeping Tom.
And then she runs upstairs. Mary Tate runs upstairs and says hi to Joe and jumps in his arms.
That whole transition didn't make any sense to me. I thought she was running up because she realized that she was being spied on while training or changing.
Oh, right.
And all of a sudden she's excited to see Joe. So two things were confusing to me. One, I thought she was running up because she was going to give a karate chop to the nuts to Thor.
Yeah.
But then she's excited to see Joe. She just was sleeping with and having breakfast with Blake. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's excessive affection. This is what I wrote down.
Yes.
Their relationship is very ambiguous. Let's just say,
no clue what's going on there.
I mean, again, I think it's probably it was the 70s. This movie has a very Key Party vibe to it.
Yes,
for sure.
Stanley Kubrick had to have been watching Stay Hungry when he was, preparing for Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, but that's all that happens in that scene. There's no plot. It's just here's some stuff that happened, and then we go back to the mansion where Blake and his buddy are talking,
and Blake is checking out looking down the barrel of a gun.
Yeah.
That's not a good idea. And I'm pretty sure he was drinking at the time as well.
And the guy comments that he's like, "Oh, you expecting some bison?"
Yes,
he says something like that. He's chomping on a carrot, which I guess maybe is a Bugs Bunny reference. I don't know if this character is supposed to be like. Is that what the idea is?
Maybe. I don't know.
Bugs Bunny.
But effectively, you got, again, that they're trying to push that, hey, there is a plot here, and the investors, they're getting a little restless.
Yeah.
But that's it.
But rather than respond in any way, he just goes, karate, and chases him out of the house.
Yes.
What is happening in this movie?
I don't know.
You keep expecting the plot to advance. These characters are trying so hard to advance the plot. This guy's going to his mansion going like, hey, this thing needs to happen. Make a decision one way or the other. You can't just do nothing. And he just goes karate and chases him away, and nothing is resolved.
Nope.
There's no reason for the plot other than to watch.
Now what we do is we have a couple of more scenes that really don't advance the plot.
Yeah, because what's next? It's so hard. It's a good thing we both took notes because I definitely wouldn't even know.
Well, Mary Tate and Blake, they play dress up. And
right, that's next.
They dress up because, again, I think she doesn't have probably as many clothes on as she should.
Right.
And this is where William says enough is enough. I can't take this anymore. And I do have written down here 52 years, so you are right.
Yes. Yeah, I want to play a clip, and it's a little bit visual, but tell me what is happening because he's upset and he's quitting, and he goes, "I'm taking my stuff. Your grandmother or whoever."
Yes, because there's a portrait of his grandmother in the room where they're playing dress up, and William Scatman Crothers has had enough.
Yeah, so here's him quitting. And again, this is a little visual, but we'll try and describe it. He's taking his...
Come on, Willie.
He's going to come back in and say...
And I'm taking everything that belongs to me.
And
your grandmama left me a whole lot of stuff in her will. She left me this here, too.
Okay, so he's pointing at a piece of...
A suit of armor.
A suit of armor. What's he doing here? He's looking down and he smiles.
Don't worry, honey. I'll be back to get you.
What was that? What did he just do?
I don't know. He's looking down at the crotch region, and he smiles.
And you hear something going, "Wee, wee," like a valve being turned, and he smiles. What is that scene?
I don't know, but I didn't actually notice it as much.
It's so weird. I don't know.
Because Scatman also, he's got a kind of a mischievous smile when he's doing it, and he turns, as you said, what sounds like a valve.
He looks at its crotch. He does something down off the bottom of the screen. It makes a squeaking noise, and he has a creepy smile. What the hell is happening? What is this movie?
I don't know. But see, the thing is this whole time as we're talking about this, I know you like random stuff like I do. I thought you would have liked this a lot more, because there's a lot of bad stuff, but there's a lot of good random stuff in this.
I like, because like there's stuff like that where through a lot of this movie, it feels very real and kind of slice of life, and then you get those surreal moments. Like Joe Santo wearing the crazy mask and just whatever that was we just watched. The ending, which is very surreal. The kind of just after the competition, what happens? I keep talking around it because I don't want. We'll get to it. But
you save the best for last.
Yeah, but there are these surrealist moments, and that's the stuff I enjoyed the most. It's just the down to earth, just like we're skiing now. Now we're hanging out at the mansion, and now I'm meeting with my buddy who wants to talk about this real estate deal for the fourth time and without anything being resolved again. That's the stuff. Like there's good in this movie. It's not a bad movie. I don't dislike it. I liked it better the second time I watched it. I was able to pick out those stuff I liked, but stuff like that I like because it's so crazy.
It is crazy. So what we then get is we get some more Civil War
right.
Voiceover. Uncle Alfred is coming back from South Africa. So my first time through, it was unfair because I wrote down, why doesn't he just fly down to Birmingham? All right, he was in South Africa. That's not hop, skip, and a jump. But we get word Uncle Alfred's coming back, and he remains disappointed.
Well, sure, but it's the 70s. Jets exist. Like
Yes.
that's less than a day. Like it's not like it's not like he's gonna take a boat or anything. But
so then now after we get this voiceover and William has quit, we get maybe the most random, and For my money, I didn't know this was coming, and it was worth. I think I paid $8.99 for this DVD. It was worth every penny.
I agree. This is my favorite part of the movie.
It is,
even though it's another scene that has no purpose and it does not advance the plot at all. But I don't care. I am with you 100%.
So what we get is Blake and Santo, Schwarzenegger and Bridges, go on, I guess, a road trip. It's not really a road trip, but they're going specifically to somewhere off the beaten path.
Yeah, they just pull over to the side of the road, and Blake's like, "Where are you taking me?" And Santo's like, "Don't worry, just trust me."
If it was Thor, I would have been very concerned.
Oh yeah, don't go to the side of the road with
Don't
Thor.
go to the side of the road with Thor. But it is a hillbilly fiddle competition, and it is Arnold Schwarzenegger participating in a fiddle.
It's not so much a competition. It's just a hoedown.
A hoedown. Okay, you're right. I was beating around the bush. It's a hoedown. You have Arnold Schwarzenegger in a hoedown.
Playing the fiddle.
Yes, playing the fiddle. How can it get two things? How did Freddy Krueger not outline curling, bowling, bodybuilding, fiddle? How did we not know that this was coming? That should have been in there.
I don't think he knew, though. I think this feels like a thing where he's
embarrassed?
Yeah, he's a little secretive about it. This is his secret little passion that he just hangs out with these guys when he doesn't want to hang out with the bodybuilding guys.
And I wish I had more to talk about. There really isn't. I mean, in terms of what they're playing, I don't really care.
Well, I love it. And the thing is, it's funny. I in the last couple of years, I've really discovered like bluegrass music, and I kind of really like bluegrass. This isn't quite bluegrass. It's just kind of mountain music. I don't know what the distinction is. I'm not an expert, but it's bluegrassy, and it's really good. And they obviously found some really good musicians, and they just got them together and said, "Hey, you guys have fun and play some music and
We're
play
fiddle."
We're
going to do a random thing in this '70s movie, and you're going to be in it.
But they just went there and filmed. You could tell they just put a camera down and they just filmed these guys having some fun playing fiddle and banjo. And all that.
It was very organic or natural.
Yeah, and it's really fun to watch. And
I will say I had no idea. I mean, I knew a little bit about the plot, and it sounded a little crazy when I read the back of the DVD for our last episode. I had zero clue that Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to be playing the fiddle. The smile was ear to ear, and I'm glad that I own this DVD just to be able to show people that scene.
It is good, and he's pretty plausible.
Yes,
I don't know the commentary about Ravelson implied that Arnold learned to play the fiddle. I don't know if I believe
How true.
that. Yeah, but it looks like he at least he's pantomiming it well enough because, a lot of times you watch movies and actors pretend to play guitar and it's like, you obviously don't know what you're doing. I bought it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. It's fun watching him just being part of a hoedown. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That concept, I mean, just think about that.
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger in a hoedown.
It's great. It's amazing. It's no question about it. It's leaps and bounds my favorite part of this movie. And then they form a circle, and Jeff Bridges. There's that one guy. There's that old dude who's always shuffling and is doing the dance, and he's doing a dance, and then he pulls Jeff Bridges in, and Jeff Bridges does his dance. And
yes,
it's kind of like I think he's intentionally like copying the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz. He's doing that kind of a thing. But the only thing, I mean, that's fun watching Jeff Bridges do his dance. It's obviously just kind of goofing around. They should have had Arnold get in there and dance.
I agree. That maybe was the only disappointing part of that scene.
100%. Because I'm just like, as soon as Jeff Bridges started dancing, as soon as Jeff Bridges started dancing, I was like, where's Arnold? Is he in this scene? Do I see him there? And I didn't spot him. I'm like, I'll bet they don't do it. And I was so upset. All I wanted to do was watch Arnold dance to a fiddle.
So we then cut back to the gym. It's I'm going to guess the same day at night, and the karate instructor and Freddy Krueger, Franklin and I can't remember her name,
Anita
are headed back to the gym. I'm not sure if they were going to use the gym for some extracurricular activities. But they go in, and the Auburn lovers are in there vandalizing the gym. Yeah,
which is a pretty big coincidence that hired muscle that Mr. Gazzo, whatever that guy's name is, Godfather,
Jabo or Jabo, I can't remember which one.
Yeah, I think it's Jabo.
Jabo.
But he just happened to hire these two guys from the bar.
From the bar. Like there's no other muscle in all of Birmingham.
Plus some third guy that we'd never seen before. But they're trashing the place.
Yeah, so they trash it. Freddy Krueger gets gets. He doesn't fare so well, but
the ball in the side pocket or whatever the line is.
Yes, that they figured out that you alluded to the pool cue. They figured it out later on.
Yeah, they got another chance.
They got another crack at him.
There wasn't enough used of Anita using her karate.
No,
because there's this fight. There's a fight upstairs that's just shot with like flashlights, and you can't really tell what's going on. And Robert Englund gets overpowered very quickly. And then downstairs, she like kicks that guy once.
And that's it.
But then they all get away. It's like she could have done more than that if she's this karate black belt.
So the next day, Thor is despondent that all these customers are going to sue him.
Yeah.
What
customers?
What customers? And what I said is that they trashed the place, but I'm not really sure it looks all that much worse.
No. You could still work out in there. Like
it was kind of a crappy place to begin with.
Well, it's like the workout equipment. They can't trash that. Like it's all made of steel. Like what did they do?
Right.
They spray paint it maybe? Like
just
you can
that
still
whole
use
concept, I laughed at it. Like, what are they going to get together as a class action Thor? I don't really think they care.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even if you paid a year in advance, what were the dues? You're not going to sue for that. You're just going to say forget it. You're just going to go somewhere else.
Well, just considering how few people we see in there, I actually looked up the minimum number of people that you need for a class action lawsuit.
You looked that up.
Well, apparently there is no legal minimum, but generally speaking, judges will throw out a class action lawsuit if there are fewer than 20 plaintiffs. And I'm going like, I don't know if he has 20 customers. You don't see that many people.
No, you do not.
Although the karate class is pretty full. So even just based on the karate class, there's at least 20 there. But you don't need equipment for a karate class.
No, and they may have only signed up for the karate class. They might not be members of the gym, right? They may be paying a la carte for that.
That's a good point.
Because I think Mary Tate seems like maybe I don't know if it's aerobics, but it seems like she's also an instructor. Because I think they established she was a gymnast or something. So I don't think that, because she's in workout clothes.
Yeah, you never see her doing anything.
You don't see her doing anything, but it was implied to me that she also did something there, other than just being like at the reception area. But anyway.
I'm not sure if aerobics would have been a thing yet.
I mean, I know it was in the 80s. I don't know, but I got the impression that she did something other than
probably
welcome people.
Right.
So anyway, Blake lends Thor money.
Yeah.
Again, what didn't make any sense to me is help out Joe.
Yeah, that made me so mad.
Yes, it makes no sense.
From this point all the way through, because there's going to be a party at the country club in a second. And it's part of the reason I think why my first viewing,
you didn't.
I hated Blake. Like even at the end, I was like, you didn't redeem yourself in my eyes. I don't like no. He drove me crazy. Why are you lending this guy money? He's clearly a creep.
Yes. And he's like grabbing you in the first meeting. It makes no sense.
And it's just an IOU. It's not even like a loan. It's just, there's no
right.
interest.
It's not like you could have played this off that this was his ploy to be able to get control of the gym, right? That he gets a mortgage or whatever and he knows he's not going to be able to pay him back. It's just like he's friends with him. You're friends with Joe. Well, get Joe from out from under this creep.
Well, the frustrating thing about it is, because I get the idea that he wants to save this gym. Because by this point, he's made friends with a lot of people here, and he likes the gym. He's working out at this gym. That I'm fine with. But don't say... He shouldn't care about Thor. Because in the end of the movie... To spoil the end, but at the end of the movie, he owns this gym, and he refuses to sell it. He could have very easily... Yeah, he could have taken this opportunity to say, like, look, you owe this money, you can't pay it. I'll buy it out for me, I'll save you. That would be helping Thor out.
Right.
But look, I'll buy the gym, and that way you don't have to deal with this expense. It'll be on me. And it would have saved a lot of grief for a lot of people if he had just done that, and in the end, it would have been the same result.
Yeah.
But no, he's just like, I'm going to give you, here's $5,000. Like, if you care about this gym, just buy it and do exactly what you do anyway.
Yes.
Whatever.
So you then get yet another party. There really are a lot in the 70s.
Well, first he's sulking at home. I guess maybe this is before the party.
Yes. They're getting ready, and this is another dress where she's not wearing very much.
Yeah, well, at least this one they comment on.
Yes.
Joe Santo is just like, I don't think that's appropriate when he sees her at the party.
Yes.
Like, do you think that's an appropriate dress?
Which, by the way, Santo, I had it look like Buffalo Bill in the cowboy outfit that they had him.
Yeah, this is there aren't a lot of links between Sabotage and this movie, but that was my link. Cowboy Arnold.
Yes.
I love Cowboy Arnold. We've had 2 movies with Cowboy Arnold, and man, I think there's really only one more movie that has Cowboy Arnold, and we won't be getting to it for a while because I think really the Last Stand is the only other.
Right.
That's really it. But I love Cowboy Arnold. Even this, which he looks ridiculous.
He looks beyond ridiculous.
But I don't care. I love it.
It looks like he actually. So the other thing that came to mind is it looks like. Granted, it would have been a much larger version, but it looked like the outfit that Marty McFly has in Back to the Future 2.
Yeah, but way more silk.
Or 3, excuse me, Back to the Future 3 when he needs to blend in as a cowboy, but but more silky because it's the 70s, so it needs to be silky.
Yeah, it's very silky and shiny. We should clarify because there's this party being
thrown at the country club,
and he suggests to whatever her name is, the fried green tomatoes.
Mary, I think maybe.
Yeah,
whatever
that could be. But she's throwing this party, and she wants to find authentic
entertainment,
and he suggests Joe and his bluegrass folks, to be the entertainment. So he's there in his cowboy outfit. He's rented it. He's just like, I rented it. I wanted to find something,
It's clearly rented,
authentic to wear. But yeah, that's why he's there. Is he and his bluegrass buddies are the entertainment.
They're the entertainment, and basically this entire party is Blake being a jerk and trying to, I guess, straddle both worlds maybe and still keep his old friends. But really, the entire time, Arnold's being made fun of. Mary Tate feels neglected, and really, it's just Blake kind of being a jerk and unsympathetic. So I can understand why you'd walk away from this and say, "You just lent this total creep $5,000.
Yeah.
You're then sulking in your mansion,
right?"
Sulking in your mansion, Bruce Wayne, and then you're going and being a total jerk to your new friends at this party.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing because it's trying to show he's still is concerned about how he's seen in this world. It's by his rich friends and what they think of him, and he's trying to impress them, saying hey, this guy Joe Santo, he's really cool. Check out all the things he can do. He's a bodybuilder and he plays the fiddle and blah blah blah. But he's just embarrassing himself, and he's being very dismissive of Mary Tate, and I don't know, it's a weird sequence.
It is, and so Arnold, Joe Santo eventually gets frustrated because they're being made fun of. So he calls off the jam.
Well, first of all, there are a couple of things I want to talk about in this scene because we meet Uncle Albert very casually.
Oh yes.
He's not even really introduced. It's just Blake is in the bathroom, I think. He's just talking to some old guy.
Yes.
And we only learn at the end of the scene that
he's not just an attendant in the bathroom.
Right, that's what I thought too. No, this is Uncle Albert, our narrator, our Ken Burns narrator.
Our Ken Burns narrator.
It turns out here he is, and you didn't know. He said he was coming back, but we didn't know he was back. We didn't know what he looked like. It's just this movie assumes we're going to know who he is, and then
we eventually find it out.
But they don't really talk about anything important. And then the other thing I want to bring up is Joe Santo meets Zoe, Joe and Zoe. But remember, she's the girl, and she it turns out she's a pilot.
Yes. Yep.
And he's like, "Oh, let me introduce you to Joe Santo." And Joe's like, "I think I can introduce myself." Whatever he says.
Yes, and then he
basically just like, "Shoo, get out of here."
Yes, I can close on this.
But this is played by Joanna Cassidy, and she was in a lot of stuff. But the one place I know her from is Blade Runner. She's one of the replicants in Blade Runner.
I would not have made the connection.
But I was like, oh, it took me a while. I was like, I know her from something, and I looked her up, and it was like, okay, yeah, from Blade Runner.
All right.
Yep.
So so you get that introduction, which has a little bit, brief scene a little bit later. You get Uncle Albert, but then effectively it at least moves things forward where Blake has failed miserably at his attempt. Mary Tate storms out, in a huff.
Well, first she plays Kissy Pants with Ed Begley outside. Yeah. Mr. Zero Defects.
I wasn't sure what Mr. Zero Defect. Basically, all this stuff. I'm like, all right, I was
something about his factory. He's got a pin that says Zero Defects, but the movie doesn't explain what the hell they're talking about. She's just like, Zero Defects. See this pin? I'm just like, what are you guys even talking? I don't understand the words that you're saying. He's upset about Japanese tools.
Yeah, So
these Japanese tools are killing us.
Yeah, I guess I don't know if it was the early days of Six Sigma quality control or what. Yep. I don't know, but
please don't bring up Six Sigma. It's like the less I hear those words together, the better.
So the point is, you get to the end of it. Nobody's really happy, and everybody's gone home from the party not happy.
Yeah, and this is our end of Act 2. Everything is terrible.
Yes,
moment. But before we finish the scene, because they're all making fun of Joe Santo and his band, and we get our second pun. It's very offhand. I missed it the first time. I only caught it my second time watching.
I don't think I got it, so give it to me.
One of those jerks who they're like sarcastically applauding, like, yeah, it's the Muscle Beach Orchestra or whatever this thing. And then one of the guys after Joe Santo says, like, thanks, we're done, we're gonna leave. And the guy goes, all right, let's give them a standing ovulation.
I missed that.
Which I don't know if that's really a pun or not, but
we're gonna count it. Give it another.
Yeah, it's enough. This movie, we need to stretch him.
We need to stretch.
That guy thought that was really funny. Standing ovulation. That guy thought he was the funniest guy in the party.
He was the funniest guy in the room. So I have the next sequence is Uncle Albert. After meeting him in the bathroom, he looks at squirrels and tells some family stories. And honestly, I don't think anything else really matters from this entire sequence.
About goats. Well, first she leaves him, which is just a scene. It's a very melodramatic scene where she just storms out.
Yeah.
So I'm leaving, and he screams that he needs her and all that. But it's just a stock kind of a breakup scene.
Yeah, breakup. That's why she storms out in a huff.
There's literally nothing noteworthy about that scene. Yeah, but Uncle Albert is noteworthy. The story about the goats. This is another one of those moments. Is what is this movie? Your uncle so-and-so, is it Frank or something? It's your uncle.
Yes.
He had a pet goat, and he never got over it. That's what he says. What does that mean? He had a pet goat, and he never got over it. I assume it means the goat died, but what a weird thing just to be in the middle of this movie. I'm going to tell you a story about your uncle that just loved goats.
And it goes nowhere.
Yeah, and he tells a story, and then and he tells a story like, okay, he started this goat farm in whatever, Bermuda or whatever it was. And now, what's the line? He goes, now it's ba, 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 all over the place.
So
I kind of want to. We should probably find that line because it's so
effectively it's the precursor to alpaca farming scam. Is really what it is. Investments in alpacas.
That line just weirded me out so much. Ba ba. Nah, that's probably not worth finding it.
Yeah. So. This is another one of those scenes where my second time through, I'm like, all right, I have something in my notes that this is irrelevant. Boom, I just skipped over it. I didn't need it another time.
There are too many scenes like that, though.
There are a lot. So then, in terms of really transition doesn't make sense, we get a bunch of characters introduced in the next sequence. Basically, it's a scene to remind you, there is supposed to be this Mr. Universe competition. That's the whole point of that scene.
Yeah, all these guys are signing up. They have to sign up in person. I guess it's the 70s. You can't, but it's like you can't just mail this in. You got to show up in person. And Thor's collecting all the money. We meet these two weird brothers, and the one guy who has they have their own language. And
none of it makes sense.
It's that's one of those things. Like, okay, this is surreal, but not in a good way.
No, it wasn't good.
Weird and
that cutting room floor probably everything. Certainly their own language.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost like they wanted to go somewhere, but they ran out of time or money and just didn't have enough time for those characters, and so the whole other language thing was dropped.
It's like the kind of thing you were talking about the Coen brothers. It's the kind of thing that they would do, only not nearly as good. Right. It's just like weird, quirky characters. Okay, this guy only speaks in this language that he made up. Like, in theory, that could be a funny...
entertaining.
Like, if you hear... Okay, Coen brothers made a movie, and there's this character who only speaks in this language that he made up. You can go, like, oh, yeah, I can see why that would be cool, like, funny or whatever. Not in this movie.
It didn't work.
No.
So the next scene... I think there's a scene with Blake, but I don't know what happened.
Blake's at Dorothy's. Dorothy is the girl...
Yeah.
That he took to his original date.
Yes.
So now he's back with her.
Yes.
And she's like, oh, you're back to your old self. And they cut to him just in the pool, like, basically just comatose. Just
the whole thing, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. That's what I meant, is I no clue what was going on there.
I think it's just to show that he's, like, back to his old... or he's back to his old habits of just...
I guess.
You know, his new friends that he made were enriching his life, and he's rejected them, and he's back to being this dirtbag.
So after that, which is just another, in my mind, throwaway scene, you get the full assemblage of Legion of Doom because Thor has a meeting with Jabbo and the rest of the business partners.
Yeah, and this is why I assumed they were hooked up with organized crime. Is that they're basically trying to set him up as the like king pimp of Alabama.
Yes,
and they're bringing these hookers, and
it's some weird. You got Thor, pretty racist, and some weird sex stuff that just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And to me, the only thing I had is I'm like, yeah, this is the 70s. It's almost like they had to have this in there.
It's stuff that is theoretically funny. Like,
but in practice, it was not.
The one part that actually did make me laugh that I thought was genuinely funny is he's like, I forget what it is. Like, they bring those two girls into wherever they're like a hotel room or some kind of like I don't know where they're meeting. And he's like, here, girls, he's like, you know, meet Mr. Erickson. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll show you the gym. And they cut to the gym, and he's just on some machine, he's just going crazy on some workout machine. That made me laugh. But the rest of this is just the weird stuff. There's a part where he's like, the girl's hanging upside down naked, and he's poking her with a stick. It's like, okay, I can tell that they think this is a punchline, but I don't think this is funny. It's just too weird and too creepy.
Yeah, I mean, I joked before that Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick got some ideas, that hanging upside down and poked with a stick seemed more of like Eyes Wide Shut than what this movie was supposed to be.
Yeah, the less said about that scene, the better, I think.
Yep.
Although there is the part where, what was the guy's name? He steals the money, right? I don't know. Newton, that's right. Because what happens, he's got the money.
No, because there's money, and they pay the prostitutes with some of that money. Okay. Thor pays him.
But then he's got more money. He says like some more for myself, and I wasn't sure if that was all the money or if he just like.
I didn't take it that it was supposed to be all the money
because the money is never resolved. That was the part that I wasn't sure
I was
about.
confused about that too.
Okay, I thought maybe he stole the money, but I wasn't sure. I was just like, but that was the only plot thing. I thought that was a plot point of he ran off with the money, but maybe not. Because I wasn't really sure. Yeah, and then we see Joe at the airport with Zoe. And she asks him, like, oh, I'll drive you to your pageant or whatever. She calls it a pageant.
I missed pageant. That's great.
That I thought was funny. But yeah, he goes to the competition is starting. And
yep, Blake heads backstage looking for Joe because he's, you know, we're going to get the attempt at a reunion with Mary Tate. And you get the line or I should say the title of the movie from Joe.
Oh, right. He won't stay doesn't want to ever be comfortable.
Doesn't want to be comfortable. He's got to stay hungry.
He's got to stay hungry. Yeah. Is this scene... I think this movie is trying to like advocate that. Like, do you think this movie is saying, yeah, Joe Santo's right? Or is it just like...
That's what that's what I kind of get the vibe is that you need to keep working. And Blake, you know, Bridges was just... had everything handed to him and was just despondent, and that was the fault in his life where Joe didn't have everything handed to him, and look at him and what he worked. I mean, that I'm not agreeing or disagreeing, but I kind of got that's what the vibe was supposed to be.
I guess, but the context that it's said in, because he's asking like, "You're going to see Zoe again?" He's just like, "No, I got to keep moving. I got to stay hungry." It's just like, well, the sentiment of Stay Hungry, I'm all for it, but this is the context that it's been brought up.
The way it was brought up, you're probably right.
This is why he's dropping these girls behind him, is because
Yes.
he's got to stay hungry. It's just, okay, I mean, whatever. Again, it's
Again,
70s.
though, it was the 70s.
Yeah, it's I wasn't really sure if the movie was saying like Joe's got it figured out, or if it's just kind of saying this is his point of view.
Because now you know, and knowing is half the battle. So, from that scene, it takes beyond a surreal turn.
Oh, this Mr. Universe competition is...
No, but before the Mr. Universe is Mary Tate goes back to clear out her stuff.
Oh, right. Well,
And Thor starts, I don't know what kind of drugs he was doing. It's beyond surreal.
It's amyl nitrate, as it turns out, because I looked it up. It cuts back and forth between the competition and this stuff, but
what you do, you're right. It's back and forth. That stuff is weird, but I do have to highlight, because I don't want to miss it. This was his introduction, and we, of course, have Arnold pumping iron just as all the way in Sabotage in 2014. They always have to work him. I mean, this movie, it completely makes sense as within the right context.
Right.
But I was glad to see that it's established from the very beginning in his movies.
well, he's got to pump him. He's got to. It gives
again,
him a little extra boost for the
Yes,
competition
but
or whatever.
in this movie, it's not a tack on. It serves a purpose.
Yeah, but I mean, the stuff happening back at the gym. Why is this in the movie?
Right. It's not. It's beyond the dial of creep. I mean, it's off the charts now.
I mean, I guess it's just like he's out of control because these drugs have just driven him mad or whatever. He's just gone drug crazy. But that doesn't excuse it. Like just this stuff should not be here.
Nope.
It doesn't add anything. It only detracts because it's just like there's all this madcap stuff going on near the end of the movie, but the whole time you're just going like, no, I'm not in a mood for madcap hijinks.
No.
Because basically what happens, there's this Mr. Universe competition. We see Arnold doing his thing, flexing, and I forget who that other guy is who comes down to him.
His competition.
Him and some other guy, the guy who can balance a beer can on his pec.
Yes. Which actually, that was kind of awesome.
It's weird. It's just look what I can do. I mean, you lean back far enough, I could do that. It's not really that impressive. But, so he wins the competition, but he learns that there's this, while the competition is going on, Mary Tate goes back and he's in his drug craze, and you learn after the fact that it was an attempted rape.
Yes, but Blake had gone back because Freddy Krueger tells him, because he's trying to grease up Santo and he wants him to basically get out of there, and he tells Blake Mary Tate went back to collect her stuff, so Blake runs back to the gym.
Right. She's at the gym, Thor's at the gym. Thor is just
high out of his mind.
Yeah, and you don't really see what happens, but he grabs her and kind of tries to force her to do that amyl nitrate. And that's the last thing you see. And then when Blake gets there, she's disheveled and clearly like
she just wants to leave.
Yeah, and it leaves it shouldn't leave that to your imagination. You only learn way after the fact that it was attempted rape.
Right. No,
but the whole time you're watching going like, I'm not in a mood to laugh.
You don't know how much time elapsed
right.
between
you don't know what happened. You're left to assume the worst.
Right.
And meanwhile, Joe Santo learns that she's in trouble. He runs out after him. All the other bodybuilders assume that he's trying to make off the money. They're all chasing him. There's this crazy madcap. This is the thing I've been talking around the whole time. The crazy, surreal scene of all the bodybuilders running through the streets of Birmingham, like just causing chaos. And it's like, this is a crazy, hilarious madcap scene that I would.
But the tone or
this whole time we're just going, well, what happened to Mary Tate? Just assuming the worst, and it's just not. We're not in any mood to.
No. So the only thing that you missed that you cut out, and for what this movie is, and I know you were disappointed that they have Arnold in that early bar fight and he's not involved. I got to say that the fight sequence between Blake, Jeff Bridges, and Thor, I went back and it's really good. I mean, I think it's really good. It doesn't look like you agree with me. I thought it was really well done.
It's not badly done. I mean, I don't think it's great. I think it's an okay fight scene. As far as this kind of it's obviously trying to be very realistic and kind of it is pretty brutal in spots.
Right.
I'm not as sold on this fight as you.
I think some of it may be is that you're not, because of the entire last couple of minutes, the hijinks combined with the question of Mary Tate, I think that maybe had ruined it for you. Because what I'll say is what I liked. Oh, I thought it was extremely realistic, and that certainly today you don't get that in movies, but I thought it was extremely realistic, and that's the reason why I thought it was really well done.
It is. I liked it better the second time when that wasn't an issue. But yeah, there's good stuff in this fight. I just think it's a little too. I mean, it feels messy in the way that a real fight is messy. Like they're just kind of
right.
He's just throwing stuff at him. And,
it's not. It doesn't feel choreographed, right? It's messy, like you said.
Right. Yeah, that's for sure.
It's not a dance sequence like fight scenes in movies today. They're dance sequences. They're not what real fights are.
Yeah, but they could have done more with the room and with like the machinery.
I don't know. I think they did a lot. I mean, there are weights being thrown, and
that's really all he does. He throws weights. But there's all kinds of. They do end up on the weird like rotating. Like there's like that bench that kind of swivels around.
Yes, they're on that.
I guess they do end up on that. Okay.
At one point, Jeff Bridges like leaps over the stairs. I mean, like over and into the stairs. That's a pretty dangerous stunt because I think that was real.
All right, you're selling me on it.
So anyway,
it was a good fight. Yeah, I'll acknowledge it's a good fight.
And I understand. And the thing is that if you got to this point and then the hijinks in a different way than this like crazed out drug Thor thing, I think all of it would have been a lot better because I'm telling you, the bodybuilders running down the street, it's awesome.
It is pretty crazy.
I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I again, between that and Arnold playing the fiddle, I am glad that I own this on DVD because the fact that exists is just crazy to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, the second time I was able to watch it and divorce that scene from what was happening with Mary Tate and all that. And so, yeah, I did enjoy the crazy bodybuilder like chaos going on at the end of the movie the second time.
I mean, there's bodybuilders up on a bus posing, and a bus is moving. I mean, it's great.
But it's so unjustified because theoretically, like the way they try to justify it is they're trying to chase. They think Joe Santo has run off with the money, which by the way he won the competition.
Right, he won. Well, they think Thor ran off with it, but which is ironic because you said Thor is his manager. And he won the competition.
But there are different weight classes.
I was going to say, there's got to be different prize. It's not like you get the entire purse. So.
Right, or like sizes or something. I don't know. They're saying big, tall, medium, small or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, but if they're trying to chase, if they think he stole the money and they're only chasing after him because of that, then why are they up on a bus just posing? I mean, it's obviously just supposed to be silly and surreal. And,
yes.
I did enjoy it. Especially... this movie treats bodybuilders like they're the most amazing thing on the planet. Because when they're during the Mr. Universe competition, the audience
just jam-packed.
And they never stop cheering.
No.
They are going crazy bonkers from beginning to end. Yeah, they're just screaming. They're cheering for their favorites. In The Running Man, they weren't cheering that much.
I was just going to say, The Running Man, they don't get as nearly jacked up about the stalkers as these bodybuilders in Birmingham, Alabama.
I mean, I don't know how long that competition is, but you literally never see that audience stop cheering once. No. They cheer for like 3 hours straight, they must. I have to assume.
That's what's implied from the scenes that are shown.
So, in this world, in the world of this movie, bodybuilding is just the most amazing thing. And then when all the bodybuilders run out,
the people in the streets, the same thing. They're just swept up.
Crowd around him, and there's my favorite guy.
That's why when you think about it, it's so funny to me.
And the two guys stop, and he's like, "Hey, did you see where Joe Santo went?" And the guy's like, "No, but these people, I guess they want to see us pose." Like, all right, let's just start posing. Did you notice on the streets of Birmingham, one of those guys on the street corner, because you and I are both big James Bond fans, Whisper from Live and Let Die.
No.
He's one of the guys in the street corner.
I wish I would have caught that. Fantastic.
You want to find him real quick? We won't actually play the clip, but I'll just try to find an image of him. But
that is fantastic.
And you hear his real voice.
That's a great catch. I wish I would have found that.
Well, he goes like, have you seen Joe Santo? And the guy's like, and Whisper's like, who's Joe Santo? And he's like, oh, he's a bodybuilder. He's wearing the outfit like mine. And he's like, oh, I thought those were your underpants.
Oh, okay. Now I did not recognize that was Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember, because I remember that I thought those were your underpants.
That's Whisper. Yeah, there you
Yep, you're right.
He's at 135.12.
Yep.
That is Whisper from Live and Let Die.
Completely missed it. Nice catch.
Yeah. But
so, from that we basically get the wrap up after this, which is Blake decides he's going to keep the gym. He's reunited with Mary Tate, and it's a happy ending because William the butler gets all his gets all his stuff from the house and is able to open up, I guess, the first Goodwill store.
Yeah, I mean, that's a detail. That character wasn't in the movie enough to need to really wrap him up. I don't know why they felt the need to. But also, what changed that caused him to reconcile with Blake? Because Blake, he's selling the house now.
Yeah, I took it as because he's selling the house and moving on that he won't be desecrating the family name by just partying and hanging out, floating in the pool listlessly.
I guess that makes sense, but it's just like I don't know why all of a sudden
I agree
William
with
is forgiving him.
You could have completely just left it unsaid, meaning William could have been unresolved, wouldn't have mattered. I did find it interesting that it's another voiceover, but this time it's Blake who's doing it instead of his uncle.
So he's writing a red letter back, right?
Yes, yeah.
Kind of giving an update.
But so you get the wrap up, and that's Stay Hungry.
Oh, right, because he's inviting Uncle Albert to come see the squirrels at his new house. That's how this movie ends.
Yes.
I think that's the last line of the movie. It's just like, oh, I bought a new house. You can come and see the squirrels.
Yes.
To the end.
The end.
What the hell?
A random finish for a bunch of random stuff.
Oh, this movie is... It's weird in a way that isn't... Because there are plenty of weird movies, and I enjoy a good weird movie, but this isn't weird in the way that is, like, interesting or, like... sometimes just... A movie can be like fascinating. Like, I'm going to piece this thing together. I don't quite understand it, but it's strange. And I'm going to. This doesn't feel like there's anything to piece together. It's just a bunch of stuff that happens, and it just happened to stop here. Like, this movie could have kept going and had more
random stuff.
Yeah, because there's barely any plot. I don't know. I'm surprised you like this as much as you did. I mean, I get the crazy stuff. The ending sequence of the bodybuilders running around is pretty great. The bluegrass sequence is pretty great. There are individual scenes that are great.
Maybe you're right that it's unfair for me to say that I like the movie. The better way to say is I like the fact that it exists because the random things in it that are good scenes, I'm glad that they exist. In terms of it being a movie where it's like, oh yeah, I need to watch this. No, but I like the bluegrass scene. I like the bodybuilders. There's enough of it that I like that I'm glad that it exists. Maybe is a better way to put it.
It's worth seeing just in the context of seeing what is essentially Arnold Schwarzenegger's first movie. Hercules in New York notwithstanding.
Right.
It's the first movie certainly where he has to act. I actually think he's okay in this movie. I don't think he's really a great actor at this point.
No, and he's not really being pushed, I don't think, that hard. But
there are a couple scenes where he actually has to act, and when he's hurt, when the guys are making fun of him at the party, and he's actually okay. Like I really thought I was prepared for the worst of just early Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. There are some movies where he's not really good, but he's good in this. That's the interesting part of seeing him at this stage of his career, and but otherwise, if Arnold Schwarzenegger, I guess that's really the question. If Arnold Schwarzenegger was not in this movie, would you still like the movie? If it was somebody else, if it was Lou Ferrigno,
I probably wouldn't like it as much. I don't think. I don't. Yeah, I think you have me. I think that. Because it's his first movie, and there's enough good random stuff in here is probably the reason I had fun, and I'm glad that I have it.
Yeah, that context is what makes it interesting, I think. But I don't know. It's fine. So I don't have a lot to say about it. That's what I was saying at the beginning. It's just this movie is just it's just so amorphous and kind of shapeless that it's like trying to describe like a puddle or something. I don't even know what to say. Or just whatever. It's just a shapeless thing. It's just hard to. I can't even imagine what it must have been like in the 70s to be a movie critic and to have to review a movie like this. What do you say?
I didn't try and look one up, but that would have been interesting.
Maybe this shows the limitations of us as as podcasters, because it's like. There's not there aren't body counts and puns to talk about. Like we don't have our crutches to
that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Oh man, we don't have our fallbacks.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that though, because I do have the 7th rule in a crisis situation. So I do have some things I can fall back on.
Well, yeah, we'll wrap up with the 7th rule, but before we get to that, I just have one thing I just want to point out, because our pun count, for speaking of our crutches, our pun count here was 2.
Yes.
Our body count 0.
Yes.
Which I think was the first time this has happened. And you may have forgotten, but I've won our bet. We made a bet at the end of Batman and Robin, and I said, do you think we'll ever see this again? Will there be more puns than body count? And you said, no, I don't think that's possible. And I said, maybe one of the ones we haven't seen, there'll just be a handful of puns and no deaths. And we made a gentleman's bet. We never set any stakes, and I'm just going to say, just
pride.
My ability to declare myself the winner is my
you
prize.
are the winner.
But I did not want you to forget this because
I'm not nearly as good of a handicapper as I thought I was.
Well, but there you go. I just wanted to make sure
you got me. Well played, sir.
Okay, so sorry to interrupt.
Well played.
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
I need to know what we learned this.
Yes, we're
time.
getting down to the brass tacks in the business. So the seventh rule in a crisis situation is, if you're matched against a stronger opponent, ask them to do a bodybuilding pose, because all that will mean is that you'll be able to get away because they'll be up on a bus traveling down the streets of Birmingham.
They have an obligation to strike a pose.
They based on this, they have an obligation to just pose.
That's true. The crowd demands a pose. I'm like, well, based on the bodybuilding code.
Yes, the bodybuilding code.
We must pose.
That's what I learned. You just ask them to pose, and they're going to have to strike a bodybuilding pose.
All right, well, that's our seventh rule.
So another bit of housekeeping. This was my pick. Really, there's only one category left because the end of the season, episode 8, will be a Terminator movie.
Yeah, we've got 2 episodes left in our season, and we're saving the Terminator category for last.
Best for last. So you have what we have deemed the pre-governor decline.
Yeah, this is. I only have this category left to choose from. You can tell by the way we've named this category that
we don't think of these films.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of high regard for the movies in this category. So. It's interesting. I'm glad you liked this movie more than me because I was kind of coming in thinking, boy, we've had kind of 3 stinkers in a row, but maybe not. This movie wasn't quite the stinker that
no, but
Batman and Robin is certainly, and Sabotage I liked it okay, but I said in that episode I can acknowledge it's a terrible movie. I just kind of enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say is I've enjoyed that the last 2 were movies that we didn't know really well because one of the limitations we were afraid that we were going to have is, are we just going to try and do this for the movies that we know and really really like, and then what are we going to do for the others? I like that this is going to force me to watch some stuff I wouldn't have maybe watched otherwise.
Oh, and I like it too. My worry is we're kind of killing our podcast before it has a chance to grow because we're just doing these like awful movies all in a row, or they're just awful and or obscure. So
that may be true, but we've got Terminator coming, so that's something.
Yeah, we got Terminator coming, but in the interest of just trying to minimize the damage to our podcast,
I love it.
I'm just going to choose the movie that I think is
the least worst option.
Yeah, I'm really picking. I don't have it's slim pickings, but
death is not an option.
It's not the movie I would have chosen under other circumstances, but just in the interest of having something that I think will probably be the most exciting one to discuss, or at least the one that has the most. Maybe exciting is the wrong word, but just the one that I think.
I'm trying to think right now which one you're going to pick. This is going to be interesting.
I am going to choose. Well, the next movie we're going to watch is Eraser.
Ah, you have been erased.
Just if only because I want to talk about that CGI alligator and
in thinking of the ones that are in the pre-governor decline, that probably is.
It's the most Arnold movie.
The most Arnold and most salvageable if you're trying to not have 3 duds in a row.
Well, we've gone so long without talking about an action movie, and it's like the other 3 in this category are Collateral Damage, which is an action movie, but it's so like it's the most boring action movie I've ever seen. End of Days, which isn't really an action movie.
No, I don't know. It's a supernatural thriller. I don't know what it is.
But that was the movie I probably would have picked under other circumstances, but I want to get an action movie in there. And then The Sixth Day, which we've already described our disdain for that movie. So so Eraser, I think, is the best of all those options.
Okay.
So that's what we're going to do next.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so thanks for listening. Tune in next time when we talk about Eraser. You can find us on Twitter at Bad Puns Podcast. You can also read us an email at questions@bpamg.com. Again, if you enjoy the podcast, we'd appreciate a rating on your favorite podcast app of choice. And, tell your friends. We're going up online. We're if you're listening and you enjoy the show, we don't. Unfortunately, we've talked about this off the air, but we don't quite have as much time to promote our own show as we thought we would. Our life has gotten busy, at least certainly for me, more than I was expecting. So we're just kind of throwing these out there. So we're counting on you. If you like the show, please spread the word. We would appreciate it very much.
Certainly would. As Kevin alluded to, we're certainly open to feedback and thoughts about any things that can be improved or added upon. And we have been excited to see that we have an international audience in some of the stats that have come back, that we've ventured out not only outside of the Chicagoland area, but to multiple continents. So
it's the internet. I mean, we shouldn't be that surprised to be like, wow, people need, we're such rubes when it comes to we're so new to this thing. But yeah, we've had a few episodes go up now. And it's just like, oh, cool. There's people, I really didn't expect that many people to be listening outside of our friends at first because
same here.
So because we're not really doing it.
We're not out there pushing it really.
We've got our Twitter and we're posting when the episode goes up, but that's about it. We don't have time to really promote the show. So again, if you're listening and you enjoy the show, if you could tell your friends, we are we're enjoying doing the show at the very least. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, we appreciate you listening. Anyway, so that's Stay Hungry. So tune in next time when we discuss Eraser. We'll see you then.
Joe Sando, come this way.
Joe, see what, man?
Pose the trunk side.
Is that what you wearing? I thought those was his underpants, man. I did too.
No, bodybuilder.
What's a bodybuilder, man?
People with bodybuilders do, man. Did you see where Sando went?
No.
These people want to see